We're really excited to be here today. And my name is Carol Akiwuni, and I'm CEO and founder of Money for You. We exist to tackle inequality, and we do that through quality financial education for young people, for entrepreneurs, and for nonprofits. So today, I've got a number of wonderful guests who are joining me for this session, and I hope you're as excited as I am to welcome them. I'm going to introduce them, and then we're going to literally dive in because we're talking about something that's really pressing for all of us, and that's the cost of living crisis. Today, we're hoping that by the time you leave, you'll be able to feel a little bit more confident, about living your best life, especially if that's one of your goals. So joining me today are four wonderful young people. First, there's Kelly McKenzie. Kelly is the founder of kellyupstage.co.uk. She's a commercial lending broker and a personal finance content creator. She shares money-saving tips and schemes that are not really publicized in the UK. And if you're not following Kelly already, you really need to. Now, we're going to be dropping all their social media handles in the chat, so feel free to follow. Next up is Bobby Petrov. Bobby is the business owner and coach. He's passionate about finance, entrepreneurship, and helping people create more freedom in their lives. I'm pleased to introduce Dev Gunput. Dev is a consultant. She's a personal finance and career content creator. She gives tips on how to get good with money. Now, last by no means least is Brian Mitchell. Brian is the founder of Frugal Spender and the Frugal Spender podcast. He's a money coach. He helps people with budgeting and financial planning. So Kelly, Bobby, Dev, and Brian, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
Excellent. So just so everyone gets to meet you and hears a little bit about you, I'm going to go around and just ask you guys to, just tell us a little bit more about yourselves, share your journey with us. And my lovely audience, please feel free to add things to the chat, questions, comments. Use the Q&A button. We'll be keeping an eye on it and we'll be taking your questions throughout this session. Feel free also to tweet and to tag at moneyforyou.org. When you do so, we would love to amplify whatever you're saying. Okay, so I'm going to come to you first, Kelly. Kelly, what does it mean to live your best life? And if you could tell us how you got there, if you're there already, what made you decide this is your best life?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. And I knew he was going to come to me first. I could just feel it. Okay, so living my best life my word is freedom. And I know the word is thrown around a lot, like financial freedom and just freedom. But if I can do what I want to do when I kind of want to do it, then I'm happy. That is my best life. Like obviously, I'm a parent. I'm a mom of a 14-year-old boy. So yes, there's things that I don't always want to do, but have to do. But in my work side, I'm really blessed, lucky. I've worked strategically enough where now if I don't feel to take calls today, then I don't have to. I work in bursts. So living my best life for me is definitely working in bursts. So I could work for 2 weeks and then I might not work for 2 months.
Right.
So that's my version of living my best life. So a little bit about myself. Always been in finance, but fell into rent collection, really boring, but for a really large estate agency. Then realized that working for people and having a 9 to 5 didn't always go too well. I was often in trouble at work. I was often late to work, and hierarchy didn't really mesh. Left, had my child and was off for a while, really enjoying just being a mum. Then went back to work for a local authority and started to realize I need to work for myself. I need to either have a business or just create a role for myself. So I started to go to really, really intentionally go to networking events. Went to a networking event, met a really rich guy, didn't marry him, but different story. Met a really rich guy, and he just took a shining to me as in under his wing and just downloaded all of his information. And he's actually a hotelier. We won't say the name, but yeah, he's a hotelier. And he broke down to me property. He broke down to me every strategy. And I was set on rent to rent. had a successful rent-to-rent business, and that's where I first realized you can do what you want. Like, you can create any reality that you want. It's not as hard as, you know, school and college kind of make it out to be. You can be out here making your own reality. So that was the first time I had earned money outside of a job. It was amazing to me. And ended that when I started insurance, which was 2019. And that is when I can honestly say living my best life began.
Right. Okay.
So financial services, it allows me to exchange a lot less time for money. You know, it has allowed me to do my first property flip. It's given me so much freedom, as stressful as it can be, but it's given me freedom, and that's where I am today, kind of floating. People laugh, they call me a hippie. I kind of float around. Oh yeah, I'm working today, or I'm not working today, or I'm going on holiday now. And long may it continue.
Long may it continue. Thank you, Kelly. Now that's a really interesting. For Kelly, her definition of living her best life is freedom. Tell me, Brian, what does it mean to live your best life, and how did you get there?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm currently living my best life, because I always think there's always something ahead that you can aspire for. But a bit like Kelly, I have a daughter, and for me, living sort of my best life would be freedom and flexibility. I would second everything Kelly said there, but also just the flexibility to pick and choose what I do and be able to say no to things. Like, my journey leading up to where I am now, creating content about money, is a strange one. I was never in finance. I never had anything to do with money. I used to be terrible with money. My partner was the one who dealt with it. I was the one, not necessarily spending it all, but I was just the person who didn't really care to look at stuff. When I started getting into money, I was in the police force, so completely strange profession to start doing this. I got myself into gambling debt. Was never a big gambler, but when I took the leap into the role of a police officer, there's a pretty poor pay. It starts at like £20,000 a year. It's pretty bad. Off the back of that, wanting to improve my financial situation, I thought the best way to do that was to gamble. Spoiler alert, it's not. So what happened is I got myself into relatively high debt, over £5,000. And for me, on that salary, that's a quarter of my year's salary. It's quite a lot. And I maxed out all my credit cards, got to the point where I had to make a decision. Either this continues and I spiral further into debt, or I learn how to manage money and take control of my situation. And so I did. So I, put into YouTube personal finance, and that sparked my interest in this whole money thing. My partner used to be on TikTok quite a lot. I hated it. I was very against it. There was just kids dancing on it. That was my idea of TikTok. So she said, just create a video on there about money and see what happens. And a few videos in, one of them did quite well. And I thought, actually, this could be a really good way to explain to people what I've done and how they can improve their situation, because it's reaching a lot of people, way more than word of mouth or me putting it out on my Instagram would ever reach, millions, in fact. So I put a lot of my effort and funneled a lot of my effort into creating content about money. And over time, my income started growing as a result of that. And my partner and I own a couple of businesses together. Allowed me to step away from policing. So I don't do that anymore. I left that a year ago, thank goodness. So my life is a bit less stressful now. But what it means is I can focus all of my effort into helping people not just get out of debt, but just anything personal finance related, to make anybody realize, regardless of how good or bad you are, or how good or bad you think you are with money, you can improve your situation, and life can be better for you.
I really like that. Thank you, Brian. As you were speaking, it really resonated with me. And I remember something somebody said to me when I was quite young, because it is tempting to try to get rich quick. And the person said to me, the quickest way to double your money is by folding the bill in half and putting it in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Honestly, because now, even with the cost of living crisis, imagine how many people are so desperate who think that gambling is the way. Thanks for raising that. Really interesting. Bobby, would you like to share with us what, living your best life means and how you got there, if you're there yet?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. So, yeah, the quickest way to actually make money is to put the work in, I think. So I am 24, and about 2 years ago, I was working a job, just a regular 9 to 5 in the UK, and eventually I got bored and tired, and it's some days depressed. I would go like home and cry in my bedroom, and I realized that I was seeing all these people on social media living their best lives and traveling and having lots of money, and I was like, well, here I am driving and being stuck in traffic 2 hours a day to then go and make someone else rich for 8 hours. And I just started doing research on, like any sane person would do, how to make money online on Google. And, I started trying different things out because I knew there's more to life than, being stuck in the matrix. And eventually I met people, I made connections, and I invested into courses and education because I think it's kind of the only way to learn things. If you have a problem, for example, that you don't have money, it's only a problem because you don't have the knowledge to make money. The moment you know how to make £10,000 a month, that's money's not a problem anymore, right? So I started educating myself and posting my journey on social media, and obviously a lot of people start asking questions, and obviously controversy comes with a lot of hate, but also positivity. So I don't know, it kind of feels good to see people use your advice and apply it to themselves, and it's kind of rewarding. And that's why I'm sharing my journey on social media. And 7 months ago, actually, it's not that very long ago, I managed to quit my job in the UK, and I'm currently in Bulgaria. And by the way, Bulgarian originally, but I went to the UK like 7 years ago. Anyway, so currently I'm just working full-time online for myself. Yeah, just having that freedom that Kaylee and Brian talked about, just waking up and deciding what you actually want to do with your life. I don't know, never had a better feeling in my life. It's insane.
Great. Interesting that you're in Bulgaria. I was actually in Sofia a few weeks ago. So yeah,
Nice.
I wish we'd done this before then, and I could have just contacted you and said, look, I'm here for a few hours. What's up? Okay, great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that, Bobby. I want to, just come back to what you started hinting at, the hate that you've received. When we start thinking about challenges, it would be lovely to dive a little bit deeper into that and find out how you're dealing with that, because that's real. Okay, now, last by no means the least, Dev, I'd love to hear your story. Tell us about your journey, what it means to live your best life, how you got there if you're there already.
Of course, and thank you for having me as well. Living my best life, let me have a think. I think a little bit opposite to what Brian said. So I'm a Virgo, a very passionate Virgo who loves to plan and set goals and then, get really detailed about it. And I think for me recently as well, I've realized that living my best life, I could say that I woke up and I've decided I'm living my best life today, because I'm trying to fall in love more with the process to hitting these goalposts that will keep moving. We're all really driven people, and we all have new goals, and we're always trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think lasering in on the goals themselves can sometimes feel like, you're giving yourself fully to the goal, wearing yourself down, and then it's just going to move again because we're just that determined, we're that hardworking. So I'm trying to fall more in love with the process, and by means of, or by way of kind of doing that, it ends up being so that you fall in love with your life and you end up living your best life, because no matter what you're doing, you're hitting your goals, and the daily things that you're doing as well is something that makes you feel good. So that is it for me, like doing the small things every day that make me happy. And in terms of, how did I end up here? I kind of recently moved into the consulting world. I'm a technological consultant, have been so for a year, was previously a chartered accountant. And on my way to qualifying as an accountant, I kind of realized as well, I was working this corporate job. I was having those conclusions that, are we made for something bigger than this? Is that it for the next, X years until retirement? I felt like there was something bigger I could do. And at the time, the massive problem I was having was being relatively new in the corporate world, in the 9 to 5, and just not knowing how to manage my money. And I thought, I'm in my early 20s. why am I struggling? Why do I live paycheck to paycheck? Why, like, how is it that people my age are just in such different positions to me? And I've been online for quite a while. I started designing websites when I was 13 instead of playing outside, which is another story. But because of that, I've kind of always wanted to create content. I've always wanted to do something like that. And so the two paths crossed. I was having these personal finance problems and educating myself, and I wanted to start creating content. So the answer for me was to create a YouTube channel where I spoke about money. And for me, it's kind of a channel where I learn out loud. And that's kind of how I treat it. So yeah, that's essentially my story and my journey to being here with you today.
I really like that, Dev. Thank you. I mean, and I really like the idea of it being a journey rather than a destination. And I think, Brian, you alluded to it as well, you know. So tell us, what are your daily actionable steps? Because you're trying to get somewhere, you realize that you're on the road to do that. But can you tell us some, you know, daily steps that you take to achieve these goals?
Yeah, of course. And I think I'm very, you know, I'm very kind of simple with these things because I'm someone I can get very easily overwhelmed by the like audaciousness of my goals as well as maybe the plan to get there. So I keep my daily actionable steps very simple but very aligned. So I like to get, you know, the basics in, like my movement, making sure I'm moving every day, making sure I'm hydrating every day, making sure I'm learning every day, like reading, watching other YouTube videos, making sure, you know, I'm investing that time into myself. And these are all things that in their individual actionable steps, they don't take up too much time. And I think that's really important for me because it means that I'm always having these almost non-negotiables that they're being done and they kind of give me like the air for the next day. And by doing that day after day, it means I'm still staying aligned to hitting my goals eventually. I think it's kind of along the lines of getting 1% better instead of having these like massive actionable steps that you have to hit every single day in order to hit this big goal that you have. If you're consistently and slowly getting better, you will hit your goals. It's inevitable. So I try to focus on those like small actionable steps in order to be a better person who will then hit the goals that I want to hit.
If I hear you right, you're really talking about consistency and it's the small things. I'm really impressed that you said something as simple as hydrating, because I mean, how often do we think about what we put in ourselves, you know, just helping us to stay the course for the journey? Brian, when you came on the call, you were having a super busy day. Can you tell us what your daily actionable steps are?
Sure. Well, obviously my day differs a bit like Kelly. I decide if I'm going to bulk make some content one day, and then some days where I'm just not feeling it. But I try. Well, about a few months ago, I decided there was 3 pillars that I think I wanted to try and get into every single day of my life. And it was health, wealth, and freedom. And I thought those for me encompassed everything. So if every day I do something, whether it's small or big, that hits one of those 3 things, I feel like I've been successful in some form. So health would be, I don't know, going to the gym or going for a walk even, or eating a healthy meal or something that I could recognize as healthy. It doesn't have to be sort of the mainstream idea of health. It just needs to me, I know that makes me feel better in myself and my body. Wealth wise, whether it's something to do a decision with my money, whether I don't know, pick up a job or create a video, what I get paid for, just something that brings wealth my way. And it could just be a decision about where I want to spend my money in the future. And then probably the biggest one for me is what we alluded to earlier, is the freedom element. And that is being able to go and pick my daughter up from school, or I don't know, just take a break in the middle of the day and go to a coffee shop, or whatever it is, the things that the 9-to-5 grind before prevented me from doing. I now go, actually, I have the freedom to do that. So if I hit those 3 things, health, wealth, and freedom, then I feel like a bit like Dev, I'm kind of incrementally going into the future in the right direction.
Interesting. Wow. Thank you. I do hope that post-COVID, most places will be flexible enough to allow anyone to go get a coffee or to go get a child from school. But I realize that not everyone's there yet. So thank you. Really important to just remind us to keep the important things, front and center. Kelly, tell us, what are your daily actionable steps? How do you achieve your goals?
I feel like me and Brian are living parallel lives. So we do a lot of the same thing. Like I'm a big weightlifter. I love the gym. I think most highly functioning people aspire to do some type of movement every day. So I definitely hit training 4 times a week, maybe. And then IGA, the first thing I'll do in the day has got to be an income generating activity. Like once I've done one for the day, not every day, because I struggle with laziness. So definitely one for the day. And then anything after that is, well, first of all, I don't know if everyone feels, I'm faith-based. As I wake up, I hit the Bible app. I got to say my thank yous. So whether that's manifestation or prayer or gratitude, however anyone wants to look at it, that's first. It just sets me up for a good day. Like if you've woke up and been thankful, anything after, it could be shaky, but the day started good, so it's fine. It's whatever. And then, the element of, obviously, I'm a mom, so I aim to have kind of wrapped everything up by the time that this guy comes in from school. And it's not chill time, but I can actively parent, whereas before I wasn't able to actively parent. He used to go breakfast club and after school club. So I always break down my day into that part as well. So that part is just as important as my IGA part. So being an active mum, being an active parent, one income generating activity, and hit the gym. That keeps me on track.
I like it. Thank you. So if I hear you right, the freedom isn't really freedom to not do anything, because there are some disciplines that one has to adopt to retain the freedom. And that's the IGA. It's the, prioritizing. But
you definitely pay the price every day, I think. I don't know how these guys feel, but I feel that there's a price to pay for freedom. There's a price to pay for being financially comfortable. There's a price that you can't not pay the price at any point, because you will see it in the outcome.
Yeah.
So even if it's small, like there could be a few days where I feel like not doing nothing. And if there is a period where I'm not working, it's because the work the price has already been paid for that period. So there is always something to be done. Yeah.
And I love that, because that's the reality of life, isn't it? Anyone who thinks you can get something from nothing really believes in magic. Seriously, think about it. Because sometimes you watch people and you think, they're free to do nothing, but you don't realize what goes into making that happen. So thank you for highlighting that. That's really interesting. Bobby, I'd love to hear not just your daily actionable steps. I have a feeling it's going to, kind of fit into that, but also the kind of challenges that you face, because let's be honest. I mean, Kelly's admitted sometimes she wakes up and she doesn't feel like doing IGA. The day it was snowing, I was taking photos and telling my dad I wanted to stay under the duvet, even at my age. So please tell us.
Honestly, there is a meme going around the internet. I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. Sometimes I feel like that's what we do. Honestly, it's been so much harder since I quit my job to find structure, because you're in a 9 to 5, you're free after 5, and then you have a lot less hours to be structured. And now I have all day and I've no idea what I'm doing pretty much most of the time. So it is a lot harder to hold yourself accountable, because in a job you have a boss, you have targets, you have whatnot, all these metrics that you need to follow. And when it's just you, everything's on you. You have to wake up on your own. There's no alarm. You have to do the work. You have to do everything on yourself. And that's a lot harder than people seem to think. And there's no such thing as passive income. I think you mentioned that earlier, that, you see all these people doing everything and they're having all this free time, but it's because they've probably worked really hard for it and they've put in the work initially. And when let's say I have like
Thank you. That's really helpful. I love it. I really like that. Quit your 9 to 5, to work 24/7. And it just reminds me, of my 23-year-old who I keep trying to get to go into entrepreneurship. And she's like, nope, no, thank you. Honestly, I know we have an entrepreneurial family, but I'd much rather use my brains and get somebody to pay me a lot so that, I can shut down and just go do other things, because obviously they've watched how you've been working throughout your life. So yeah, and that's okay too, as long as you're making the most of the hours that you choose to work. Okay, so tell me, does anyone else face challenges? Because I'm really intrigued and interested to hear what kind of challenges you might face on this journey, especially online, being, influencers.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I can talk for everybody to say that being consistent is very hard. I think, especially before this became what I do pretty much full time, it was fun, it was exciting, it was extra. So anything I did kind of when I got home from work, I would do it, and it would just be kind of, I would look forward to doing it more than potentially I would do now. So a bit like Dev, it's trying to fall in love with actually doing it rather than the outcome potentially of a video doing really well or whatever it is that you kind of, or the income that you may generate. It's actually setting up the cameras, writing a script, or whatever your process is, enjoying that, and then hopefully things will, the benefits will come your way in the future. But the consistency part, for me, is hard.
I really like that. So the advice I'm hearing now is make sure you love what you do.
Yeah, and just show up. Like, there's going to be days when you just, you don't want to get out of bed or whatever, but just force yourself into a habit, a bit like going to the gym or whatever it is that you love doing. There's going to be times that you don't enjoy it, but you just need to, put your running shoes on and walk in the direction of the gym. So you've got to do that, the same thing with your content or whatever it is that you're passionate about. Just find a routine that works for you and just don't give up on it.
Thank you. Kelly and Dev, are there any other challenges you think we haven't covered that you face, that you think might be real for people who are considering this kind of life?
I'm not sure if any of the other guys in the panel struggle with this as well, but I think for me a big struggle is constantly being on as a creator and like always looking at things that I can create and never having just my brain just be off or be silent. And a way one of my friends put this really eloquently, but I'm not even going to try and paraphrase it, but she basically was trying to say, like, if you're bored or when you're cooking or when you're going for a walk or when you're doing something there where you can't actually be physically creating, to let like the silence be silence. So I've kind of provided here something I'm struggling with, but also a solution I'm trying out. But for example, when I cook, I always have a podcast or, something just on in the background where I'm listening. And recently I've just been trying to not do that and let my thoughts just run for the sake of running. Not trying to find inspiration to then create content or find more problems that I can solve or anything like that. So I think that's something I'm struggling with right now. Letting my silences be silent is helping a little bit. But I think for anyone considering like a career or like a side hustle in this kind of industry, I think that is kind of, it can be a problem because I guess you have to proactively try and control yourself just to avoid things like burnout, I guess.
I really like that. Thank you. This has shifted a little bit from living your best life to now really the realities of your best life, what it might be. But there's a really good question from somebody in the audience who is asking, do any of you worry about your competitors?
No, because the market is big enough for everyone. You know, if you're selling products or services, whatever you do, there's enough people for everyone to make money. I mean, look at all the big companies and brands, they all sell the same thing, solve the same problem, but they still make money. So no, just a lot of people, especially beginners, when they want to start learning a new business, a new side hustle or whatever, they're like, oh, but what about the competition? Well, don't worry about that. You know, you're going to start learning and you might become, you know, the goal is to become one of the best. So people come to you instead of going to the competitors. So yeah, just start somewhere.
Interesting. Dev. Okay, Kelly.
Sorry.
That's okay. Kelly, let's hear from you.
No, my thing is there's so many cliches, but cliches are cliches for a reason. So like, I actually believe I am my own superpower. Like, I look at, and you know what? I don't even look at other accounts and think that's my competitor. I look to be like, oh, is that what they're saying? Oh, that okay. Like I look out for gems. So I don't think, oh my God, that person spoke about the interest rates too. Everyone's going to speak about the interest rates because they are what they are. So I don't ever think competitors, no. Morley's, if you're a Londoner, is a chicken shop, is next door to KFC, is next door to Dallas. They're all selling fried chicken. They're all fine. I'm sure they're all financially okay. So I never think
you can't go wrong with fried chicken, right?
So you can't go wrong with your content. And the thing I struggle with badly, which probably doesn't make sense because you look confident, is second guessing myself. When it comes to content, my drafts are healthier than my actual posts. Like there's more in drafts than there is out there. So just post it. I tell myself this every day, just post it. Just post it. If you want to be a content creator, just make the content, just put it out there. That's it.
Thank you. That's really good. I mean, a lot of people have imposter syndrome. You know, it's just the thing for whatever reason. Yeah, it holds back a lot of people. And something I heard a few years ago now, which I try, you know, with my team, is just the acronym GETMO, GETMO. As long as it's good enough to move on, boom. We're not looking for perfection, you know? So yeah, take that one and run with it. Dev, I know you had something to say.
I was just going to say as well, if anyone was considering creating content and you're worried about other people speaking about similar topics, a lot of the advice I give is that, you know, there's only one you and you only have your story. Like no one else has your story. There's no way for anyone else to have your exact story. And like what Kelly just said, like it's the way you put a spin on something and it's the way you tell it, whether it's literally in the way that your storytelling or like the angle or even your framing, like your actual content framing, there's always a different way to do things. And so like competition should never, or I'd hope competition would never really put anyone off. And I think there's more community in that as well, especially with like the panel we've got here. I think it's amazing because we're all speaking about very similar things, but we've all got hugely different stories and they're still going to help the same people. So yeah, just wanted to say that as well.
I love it. So you guys are hearing it. Slay in your own lane, okay? That's okay. Not everybody's for you and not everybody's for everybody else. Your tribe will find you. Okay, right. Now let's take this up a notch. You know, people have come here to get equipped with nuggets about, you know, being able to cope and even thrive, you know, in the face of the cost of living crisis. So what money advice would you give to your younger self? I mean, I feel weird asking this because you're still pretty young. So hopefully not too many regrets. So what money, you know, advice would you give? Top money saving, top tips, financial discipline, things that'll help people earn extra income, create opportunities during a cost of living crisis. Bobby, what have you got for us?
I would say don't play with credit and really learn how credit works and just how money works, because a lot of people, when there is a reason why they don't teach that in school, is people don't know how money works and they don't know how banks work, and they don't know that banks don't actually hold money. They lend it to make more money off of you. Anyway, short story, how I found out how credit works is I, for some reason, got approved for £3,000 overdraft in Lloyd's, and I decided to test it and book a flight. And it turns out it worked perfectly. So I booked 3 trips out of the UK because, I mean, free money, right? And then out of nowhere, I started getting 50p daily. Then it went up to £3 daily. And I was like, hell, what's going on? And I realized that's how credit works. So yeah, just learn about money. You know, a lot of things and problems can be solved. And if they can be solved, they can be better. And money can make things better. So that's the only reason why people don't make enough money, is because they don't know how money works and they don't know how to make more money. You know, you have to start from the bottom and learn the basics, because once you know how to make £10, you're going to know how to make £10,000 and so on.
Interesting. Thank you. So guys, Bobby's advising you to learn how credit works. I mean, and honestly, I'm sure by following these guys, even by, you know, subscribing to Bonsai Briefs, which is our 1-minute podcast, every day, 1 minute, you get a finance tip, 365 days a year. You know, it's the easiest thing you can do, learn. And what I really love is just how much you all have talked about investing in your own knowledge. You really need to know, right? Okay, thank you. So Brian, what top tips have you got for us?
Well, the thing, probably maybe a slightly different angle to everybody else, the thing that I think is like sort of the base foundation of everything starts with your mindset. I used to have a really bad mindset around money. I just thought, you know, something that came in and I had to spend it all straight away. If I could speak to myself when I was younger, it would be to have a more positive attitude. And you know, we just talked about imposter syndrome. That's something I think I've always suffered with. I think everybody to a certain extent suffers with it. But just again, that consistency will kind of break that away, because I think as you kind of reach a higher level, you get used to it, and then you get imposter syndrome when you move up, and then you get used to it, and then you get imposter syndrome again. So I think just kind of realizing that at a younger age would be beneficial. But then that also relates to money massively, because throughout my career and jobs that I did previously, my worth always felt like whatever I was getting paid. So, you know, when I first started working on a minimum wage job, that's what my worth was to me. And I couldn't envisage earning more money. And that's because I just didn't work on my mindset. And as soon as, you know, I started learning about this money thing and opened my mind to actually money isn't finite. Everybody can have a share, but like the fact that, you know, we could be seen as being in competition with each other, but we all got the same end goal of educating people about money. So there isn't like this slice of, granted there's 8 billion people, but we don't all just get a portion of that. We can all have, you know, everyone can follow us all at the same time. And I think that's the same thing with money in your mindset. It's just opening it up. Actually, my earning potential is endless. And I think once you realize that, weirdly, money starts being attracted to you.
Nice. Thank you so much. I really like that. Okay, mindset, guys. It all starts from here. You know, if you think you can or you can't, you really, yeah, that's going to either spur you on or stop you. So yeah, envision it. I think I hear him saying. Kelly, what do you think? What top tips would you like to give to anyone who's listening today?
I take it so basic, because I literally believed that when you got money, it was your sole job to make sure there was nothing left. Like nothing, not 1 pence. I was good at that. Like I was really good at that. So my mom always used to say, you know, you've got to save. And the basic was, I was like, save from where? It's gone. So how I got to save a little bit, there's, you know, the 20, 70, 20, 80 or 75, no. Whenever I wanted to buy something, I had to put that amount in my savings. So, and I'm talking basic. Anything that was not a physical necessity, it must be saved as well. If you want to buy a £30 top from Zara, you've got to put £30 in saving. And guess what? It slowed the hell out of my spending, because that's not fun. Buying a £30 top is fine. Now that's going to cost me £60 effectively. That's now not fun. All of a sudden the top's ugly. Don't want it. So I'm now seeing that, you know, there is a little bit of savings growing, but my bank account actually is okay. It's not illegal for it to have funds. It doesn't have to be in minus. So If you don't know how to save, you have no idea. Anything that's not a physical necessity, save the same amount and you'll be astounded.
I love it. I really, really like it. I mean, when we started Money for You, we were called Money for Youth. And I was so passionate about teaching children and young people, just about how to manage their money. And I always start with the uses of money. Honestly, your money isn't working efficiently if it isn't going into 4 different areas. Yep, you got to spend. That's life. Money is a tool. It really has to help you achieve whatever it needs, whether it's bills, happiness, whatever. You got to spend. But then what you said, saving is really important. But then you also need to invest, because the difference between savings and investments is that one's for a rainy day and the other one generates more money for you. And your money needs to be working that way. And of course, the final thing is sharing that money, because at the end of the day, not everybody will have the same amount. But guess what? The more you have, the more you can afford to give. And you can actually make the world better that way. Dev, tell us top tips, top money saving tips.
So I really upvote what Brian said about mindset, because that's massive. And that directly influences what I'm going to talk about, which is your financial habits. Right. And I think it's really important to nail those. And you do have to nail, or at least be as aware as you can be about your relationship with money and your beliefs about money and your mindset to begin with. But with your financial habits, as part of that, budgeting. So when I first graduated, I thought I wasn't earning enough to be budgeting. That was my initial thought, which is nonsense. Because if I had budgeted, I would have known that, I was spending too much in certain areas, and there were places that I could take from and create savings from. And then secondly, that you should have a budget no matter how much you're actually earning, because if you don't know what you're prone to spending money on, and like your own financial habits when you're not making so much, when you do eventually start making money, you're going to be doing and spending the exact same way if you don't have that awareness. So I think budgeting is a really good initial skill to nail, no matter your income level. And then it'll help you and inform you then creating like bigger financial goals, or deciding that you want to save a bit for New Year's or create a sinking fund for Christmas next year or something. Like, you'll be able to do that once you know that this is what you like spending money on and this is what you don't want to be spending money on. So that's kind of like, that's always my biggest piece of advice, even though it's the most boring. Like, budgeting is almost annoying to say because it's the thing that everyone talks about, but I think it's just very foundational to nail, especially at this time.
I agree. Budgeting is money 101. And for those of you who are wondering, budgeting is simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So if you haven't started budgeting, you need to start today. You don't even need to do it yourself. Most bank accounts now, have you noticed, they show you like, a breakdown. So if you don't have a bank app, I'm sure young people will anyway. So, but if you don't, get one and take a look at what they're showing you, because at the end of the year, I don't know if they're obliged to, but most banks now will show you a breakdown, and I'm sure you can ask for it sooner. Okay, you guys have given the most amazing tips, but I think they're still high level. Guys, we're in a cost of living crisis. Tell me practically, when they go to the supermarket, when they're doing their shopping, or when they're deciding what kind of transport to take, what are little things that people can incorporate into their day-to-day living? Just little tips, things that you found to cope or you're helping people with.
I think don't spend on things that you don't actually need, because we're kind of obsessed with this materialistic world that we live in currently, and we have this shiny object syndrome. I don't know what's it called, but we just want things that we don't actually need. Think about 100 years ago, people were living a lot happier without all the materialistic things that we buy now and we spend unnecessary money for. And, instead of buying a £3 coffee, you can take one from home and things like that. I don't know, for transport, instead of getting the bus, you can cycle, I suppose. But it's winter, so I don't know. That's a
Maybe
bad
not.
tip. No, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe walk. You could lose weight and save some money as well.
Yeah.
How about that? Thank you. That's really helpful. You could get coffee at home. Maybe on your Christmas wish list could be a good coffee maker, and that helps as well. Very good. Thank you, Kelly. Practical things that people can do with the cost of living crisis. I think, unmute yourself. You just muted yourself.
Oh Lord. Yeah. I think, first of all, don't be prideful. Pride is a dangerous thing. So I don't care how well you're doing at the moment, we should still be mindful. So for instance, I'm a really transparent person. My mom is she can probably hear me, a Waitrose addict and a Marks and Spencer's addict. Now, yes, they have, own brand lines, but that's not what she gets, okay? So this woman has got a bondage with these shops. And I'm like, darling, the butter is £7. The butter at Tesco or Aldi or Lidl is £2. Can we remove the pride? Even if you need to take your Waitrose bag to Aldi, but that's where I shop regardless. If you need to do that, but can we just really seriously, can we look at adjusting our brand? Do you need Kellogg's? Even today in this cost of living crisis, do you need Kellogg's? Can you not have the brand of the store? You don't need the brand of everything. So I'd say make practical changes. Change the £7 thing for the £4 thing. Let's go and look at a different shop. Yeah, those are the most basic things where you can grab some of your money back.
It's the simple thing. Cut your coat according to your cloth, right? Yep, I agree completely. There's no pride, no shame in it. And just imagine that Tesco's butter. I don't eat butter, so I won't comment on Tesco's butter. But I'm sure that it's probably better than the butter you find in 95% of the world. So, hey, you're winning.
Buy the butter.
Okay, all righty, cool. Thank you. Brian, any other tips to help with the living crisis? Yep.
To follow on from what Kelly said, I think there's some things that people just can't control. Fuel, energy. There's some things that we there's a minimum that we all have to spend now, and it's going to be relative to the size of your house or whatever your situation is. But the things that you can control, you just need to be intentional, and of course that comes with budgeting. But the biggest thing that I did, and I tell absolutely everybody to do, is to use sinking funds for everything in life. But in particular, the thing that I find the most useful is for the food shop. So, we look at before the month starts, how much money are we prepared to spend on food this month? And that's a decision we make before the beginning of the month. That isn't, I'm hungry on a Friday night, let's go out and get a takeaway. We have allocated money for that. So we say, okay, for example, £250 for the whole month on food, divide that by how many weeks we have. We're not going over that. And if we've got £10 left in the last month, then we better get creative with beans on toast. That's the reality of it. And you have to be strict with that because you've decided beforehand what you're going to spend. And that's relative, it's relative to your income, your situation, whether your budget's going to be above that or below that. But by deciding it, working out how many weeks you have to do it and actually doing that, is by far the best tip I can give anybody when it comes to now during the cost of living crisis. Obviously, there's other things for bills that we can't control, but that's unfortunately one for the politicians and the big energy companies. But there's not much we can do about that. But the things that we can, do something about, be intentional. Don't just be scared and put it to the side and say it'll be okay, because it's not, unless you do something.
It's okay now that you've.
My computer just went all strange. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So unless you're intentional about it and actually put your stamp on it, it's going to run away with it. And you're going to get yourself into debt. You're going to go into your overdraft, and then it's going to be a spiral sort of downwards. And as far as the sinking funds go, I use Starling bank account. This isn't a plug, but I love them because they have the spaces function, and to the point where I get close to zero in my joint bank account. I see how much the food costs, and I transfer that from the spaces into the account and spend it. It doesn't get more intentional and sort of meaningful about what I'm spending on that food shop than actually physically moving that money just before. And you don't have to do that. For me, that prevents me from impulse buying.
Thank you. Brian, can you just explain to our listening audience what you mean by sinking funds?
Sure. So essentially it's for something that an expected cost, you're going to have to spend it, whether it's a food shop, a holiday, car MOT, or, it could pretty much be anything for the short to medium term. You know exactly how much that's going to cost you. So you just basically work out when it is you're going to have to pay that money and then divide by how many paydays you have. And that's how much money you need to put aside. So if you're going to spend £1,000 on a holiday in exactly a year, divide that by 12 and set it. The best thing to do is to automate it and just set it up a direct debit or a standing order into a separate account, automate that. And you don't even think about it. It takes away that pain of getting, just after payday and saying, right, I'm going to transfer money across. If it's just done, then all that pain's gone away, and before you know it, you go, oh, I've got a couple of £100 sitting in my bank account that I didn't even mean to do. I just made a good decision intentionally a few months ago, and now my financial situation is better as a result.
Thank you. I'm really, really pleased that you've brought that up, because it kind of leads me on to a question that people are asking now. It's great for us who are in this country, and I think especially at Christmas, because Christmas, people say January ends up being the longest month, where people end up with more month than money just because of all the upfront costs. And so you can plan that way. But what about somebody who's in a country in Africa where what they're getting isn't enough to meet their day-to-day living? How can they budget when they're earning even less than what can cover their basic necessities? What would you advise someone to do in that situation? And I realize that may never have been your situation, Brian. So maybe Dev, I don't know. I'm just...
No, I can elaborate slightly. I mean, I grew up in Africa. I grew up in South Africa, so I have experienced extreme poverty. I've not necessarily myself, but I've seen it around me, and I know full well what it looks like to have nothing and not have a government handing out money to you. There's only so much a budget can do. You have to be above that limit. If you're not earning enough, then something has to be done. And unfortunately, in countries, especially like Africa, there is not a system in place to give you enough to survive for many people. The only other option, by decreasing your spending, is increasing what you earn. Those are the only two options. So, you're going to have to grind, you're going to have to side hustle, you're going to have to try and invest in yourself by learning things. We have the internet, for goodness sake. We can, and that's everywhere pretty much in the world now. Google something, find a niche, learn all you can about it, and try and monetize it. And I know that sounds easy for me to say, but you can make money online almost doing anything now. So you're going to have to learn to make money. And a bit like what Bobby was saying, you have to find a way of making money. If you can make that £10, then in your mind, hopefully, you can make that £10,000. You have to believe you can do it. And if you're in a situation where you haven't got enough coming in, there is only one option, and you have to increase your income.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else wanted to give...
I mean, I went from kind of not a really financially stable family, and Bulgaria is pretty, not very good with the government and stuff like that. So that's the reason I moved to the UK. So that could be another option for people in lower tier countries. I know it's not an option for everyone, but I can just talk from my experience. And that was the only kind of way out for me. And the only reason I'm back in Bulgaria is because my family are here and they earn pounds. If I was to work for Bulgarian currency, I wouldn't be here. So you have to find ways to make more money if there's no other option. And I've seen, because I work with people online, and I've seen people that have gone from being homeless to making over £10,000 a month. So really, I know it's cliche, but if anyone can do it, if literally anyone can do it, because we all, this is going to sound like Molly May, but we really have the same 24 hours in a day, and we have the same brain. And I started from nothing. Stop laughing. I started from nothing, and I barely spoke English 7 years ago. So if I can do it, I think anyone can do it.
Thank you. I have traveled extensively. I've been to about 80 countries, and I know that when we talk about starting from nothing in the West, it's very different to starting from nothing in a developing country where the infrastructure does not even allow you to connect to the internet to learn anything. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to sound insensitive to those who are tuning in, who are asking these questions, who literally just want some advice, and they're hoping that they can go away with something. What I would say, though, just to add to the wonderful things you guys have said, is just to say to people, you know what? You can pool your resources together. Sometimes it's easier to start as a collective than it is to start as an individual, so that's something worth exploring. We've got now, I don't know if anyone else wanted to speak to any of those things just before we start rounding up, but there's one outstanding question in the chat, which is, are there any thoughts on cryptocurrencies? I don't know if anybody would like to speak about crypto as we begin to round up.
Okay, I love crypto. I'm not a crypto boy with the sports car, but I love crypto. Crypto has made me a lot of money. But it's hard because you can say do your due diligence, but if you literally have no idea, due diligence is hard to do because reading a white paper is not going to mean anything to you anyway. So my thing in life is if I don't know something and I have no intention of learning it, I will find the person closest to me who is operating at a high level of that thing. So I wanted to learn about property. I went to a hotelier, not just a one landlord. So when I realized that people are making money in crypto, I went and found the person that's closest to me who's operating highly and did what he did. Copy and paste. If you're going to be a copycat, copy the right cat. And so crypto, do I believe in it? Yes, absolutely. Is it going anywhere? No. Is it having a rough time at the moment? Yes. But if you understand it, it's by the by. It only means bad if you're acting on it now. So I'm not sure what the question was, but crypto, is it real? Yes. Has it made me happy? Yes. Yeah. That's actually all I've got to say on crypto.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't want to give off anti-vibes here, but because I'm very risk averse. I've invested into crypto, but the amount of money I've invested is money that I'm happy to never see again. And I just want to emphasize that because I'm not an expert. I have done my due diligence when I did invest, but it is money that I'm willing to never see again because of how volatile of an asset it is. Well, even if it is an asset right now, of how volatile it is. So I just wanted to say that because I'm still investing in it as an extremely risk-averse person. But yeah, it has to be with money that you're happy to, you've got yourself covered, your expenses covered, your emergency covered as well. And then aside from that, that's what you've invested in it.
Thank you. Really valuable. And that applies to any financial instrument. Don't invest in anything you can't afford to lose. And most investments don't yield anything for 10 to 15 years. So once you put it in, shut your eyes for that amount of time. If you can't afford to do that, don't invest. Brian, I know you wanted to say something about crypto.
Yeah, I think it's like anything with money. Don't invest in anything you don't understand. And I've spent many hours learning about Bitcoin, and I think it potentially could be a good thing for humanity, not just for the UK. I think the countries that we're talking about, the developing countries who don't have the infrastructure, have the ability to send and receive money at high speeds. And I think it doesn't, it takes out, I hate to know how many hours I spent looking at Bitcoin, but it's a lot. And I still feel like I'm scratching at the surface of it. And yes, I've put in money, but just like Dev, I've put in if I look at my account one day and it's at zero, yeah, I'll be a bit annoyed, but it's not going to affect my entire life. It's interesting. Don't look at it like gambling, because in some respects, these altcoins that aren't Bitcoin, because I see those two things as separate, that is a gamble. You essentially go into a casino and putting it on red. And if you're happy to do that, that's fine. But for somebody who's starting off in their financial journey, crypto is not where you start. You start with budgeting, you start with investing in index funds or things that are generically seen as the safe option, by all people who talk about money. Crypto can be that thing that once you've sorted your life out, sort of your finances out, have a look at crypto, but it has to be money you're prepared to lose.
Thank you. And I'd like to wrap it up on that note. Thank you so much, Bobby, Kelly, Brian, and Dev. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I can't believe where the hour has flown. Can you just tell people very quickly what platform and what your social media handle is so they can find you? Bobby, where can we find you?
I'm on all social media platforms at Real Bobby Petrov.
Real Bobby Petrov. That's easy. Thank you. Kelly. Okay. I think Kelly is frozen. Dev,
Yeah.
how about we come to you?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube and Instagram as @Devamsha, and on TikTok, yo, it's Devi, because a little child took my name.
You should negotiate to try and get it back. Thank you. Offer them something. Okay, Brian, what about you?
If you just search The Frugal Spender on all social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I've got a podcast now, which is the Frugal Spender Podcast.
Excellent. And of course, we will share all of that with the attendees. Thank you so much for joining us. If you don't already follow Money for You org, please do so. We're on all platforms, same. I can also be found at AmickyCarol if you'd like to follow me. And I cannot recommend a podcast for young people, Bonsai Briefs. It's on all platforms. So listen wherever you find your platforms. Thank you everyone for joining us. Stay safe and make sure you start a side hustle, manage your money better, whatever you can do so you can thrive during this cost of living crisis. But of course, feel free to reach out if there's anything we can do for you at all. Thank you, everyone. Oh, there, Kelly's back. Kelly, what's your social media handle? Very quickly.
My laptop just decided to just turn off. It's at Kelly Upstaged. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. At Kelly Upstaged. Oh, I missed. Can you put in the chat everyone else's? Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna send it out to everyone anyway. So, and I'm sure the team will reach out to you guys and just tell you what each person's is as well, so you can follow each other, connect again. It would be lovely to see where we get to, a year down the line. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.